Hello, this is Krystal and thank you for joining me for this week's First Chapter Friday. Today I will be wrapping up our Jennifer Chiaverini series with The Quilter's Apprentice. Chapter 1. Sarah leaned against the brick wall and tried to look comfortable, hoping no one walking by would notice her or wonder why she was standing around in a suit on such a hot day. She shaded her eyes with her hand and scanned the street for Matt's truck. Their truck. But she didn't expect to see it. He wasn't late. She was early. This interview had been her shortest one yet. A drop of perspiration trickled down between her shoulder blades to the small of her back, where her silk blouse was tucked into her navy skirt. She removed her suit jacket and folded it over her arm, but she knew she wouldn't feel comfortable until she was back in her customary t-shirt and shirts. A barrette held her hair away from her face, and the back of her neck sweltered beneath the thick brown waves. The people who slowly passed on their way to jobs, shopping, or summer classes at nearby Waterford College looked as uncomfortable and as drained by the humidity as Sarah felt. In a few months, she knew, she'd be griping about the snow like everyone else in central Pennsylvania. But today she longed for autumn. The handle of her briefcase began to dig into her palm. As she shifted it to her other hand, she glanced at the revolving door half a block away. With her luck, some of the interviewers would leave early for lunch and spot her lingering there. They'd probably urge her to wait inside in the air conditioning, and then she'd have to figure out some polite way to refuse. That, or slink back inside like a reprimanded child. The thought of it made her shrink back against the wall. Two staccato beeps of the horn sounded before Sarah saw the red truck pull up and park along the opposite curb. She pushed herself away from the wall and hurried across the street. "How'd it go?" Matt asked as she slid into the passenger seat. "Don't ask." Though she had tried to keep her voice light, Matt's face fell. He started the truck, then reached over and patted her knee. "I guess you already know how sorry I am about all this." "Sorry about what? You're early." "You know what." "Don't pretend you didn't understand. If not for me and my job, we never would have moved here. It's not like you dragged me here by my hair." Sarah closed her eyes and sank back into her seat. "It's not your fault I don't have a clue how to make it through a job interview without sounding like an idiot. And you're not responsible for my unemployment." "Well, I feel bad anyway," he responded as he pulled into traffic. "I mean it, Sarah. I'm really sorry." Of course he felt sorry. So did she, but feeling sorry didn't make her any less unemployed. Apparently, neither did working her tail off to graduate with a great GPA and sacrificing every other available moment to part-time jobs and internships to gain work experience. Even the years she had invested in her last job apparently did her more harm than good. Potential employers took one look at her resume, noted all the accounting experience, and refused to consider her for any other kind of work. Sometimes Sarah thought back to those first years after college and wondered how she and Matt ever could have been so hopeful, so optimistic. Of course, their prospects had seemed brighter then, colored by newlywed joy and professional naivete. Then the newness faded from her job as a cost accountant for a local convenience store chain, and the days began to follow each other in an unrelenting cycle of tedium. Matt enjoyed his job working at the Penn State campus, but just after he had been promoted to shift supervisor, the state legislature slashed the university's budget. College officials decided that they could do without new landscaping more easily than library books and faculty salaries. So Matt and many of his coworkers found themselves out of work. They soon learned that open positions were hard to come by in a medium-sized college town in the middle of Pennsylvania. Matt couldn't find anything permanent, only occasional landscaping jobs for some of his former agricultural science professors. One by one, his former coworkers found jobs in other towns, sometimes in other states. But Matt was determined to find something in State College, the town where he and Sarah had met, where they had married, and where one day they hoped to raise children. Eventually, even Matt's natural optimism waned, and he grew more discouraged every month. Soon, Sarah found herself slinking off to work every morning, wondering if she should be doing something more to help him find a job, and fearing that if she did get more involved, he'd think she doubted his ability to find a job on his own. As time passed, the sharpness of her worries dulled, but they never completely faded. Matt made the best of the part-time work he managed to find, and Sarah was proud of him for it. She watched him persevere and tried not to complain too much about the drudgery of her own job. Instead, year after year, she put in her hours and collected her paychecks and thanked her boss for her annual bonuses. She knew she should be grateful, but in her heart, she felt something was missing. And if you would like to know what happens next, you can read this title on the Libby app. Please join me here next week as I read from the beginning of Run, Rose, Run by Dolly Parton and James Patterson. Thank you and have a great week.